Hello and good morning and good afternoon, good evening. It's evening late, almost late night in Tuscany, and just the beginning of the beautiful day in Los Angeles, California. And I'm greeting my dear guest, Alexander May. Hello, Alexander. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Let's talk today about projections and how projections play a big role in politics, how the
Mm,
political decisions are being made
hmm
on what this or the other leader might feel towards another world's leader. You
mm.
start. What do you think, Alexander? Let's say American population projects onto Trump. Let's start with that.
Oh, that he's demonic, that he's evil, that he's the Antichrist, this person. Then the other projection is that he's a puppet, that he doesn't really have any power, that he's being used as a smoke screen for things that are going on underneath the surface. Then there's the projection of he was thrusted into this life and had no choice, and therefore he's stuck in it and can't get out of it. Those are a couple of things. How about you?
Mhm. Well, you just quoted all of the projections out of California area. Let me mention some projections from Tennessee or maybe Arkansas.
Mm,
And some of these projections would be, I'm assuming that he is the father. They project a lot the father figure onto this person. And of course, we can also review his natal chart today, but I don't think today we should concentrate on that. We should
mm-hmm.
concentrate more on this projection story.
Mm-hmm.
And the perfect example of how projections are being played out was actually shown to us this Monday, the 18th of August, when the meeting of EU leaders and Trump was taking place in the White House. By the way, they were not announced before, they were announced just few hours before they came. And I'm thinking they came because Zelensky asked them to,
Mm,
because he alone would not want to embarrass himself again in the Oval Office like
mm.
it was last time. Yes. How do you think the leaders are being chosen when it comes to this or the other country?
I perceive that the leaders are being chosen in a way where what I'm picking up on is that they're looking for the leader that will allow themselves to be manipulated as much as possible and will be bribed and paid off. That's what I picked up on immediately,
Mhm.
uh, from not even trying to think about it. What is your take on it?
Manipulate it as much as possible. Absolutely. If a nation has some masochistic tendencies, then they do
Mm,
want to pick some sort of villain who would bring their country to the verge of, ceasing to exist, more or less.
correct, yes.
Uh, it's very interesting when we look at the natal charts of rulers, we can clearly pretty much tell what the country would look like during this rulership period or during the presidency term.
Mm,
Because the natal chart of the leader of the country does affect the whole nation. And I remember you and I talked about it about a year ago. And we actually laid out some very interesting scenarios of what's going to happen in America, taking into consideration the Pluto and Aquarius phase that America is just about to go through. We're already there and we see the first changes, but it's going to get faster and more dramatic, as we can tell. And as well, we can say the same about other nations because a lot of nations have picked new leaders that came out of nowhere. Some of them know history pretty badly. I watched the little show where the EU leaders were sitting in front of Trump or next to Trump in the Oval Office, and one guy from Finland, on purpose, I call him one guy because you could tell just by looking at his face that he's a complete narcissist. He mentioned something in his opening speech, and it would last just a few seconds. They were given a brief moment of, expressing their grievances or telling the audience, the press, what they're here for, right? And he said something like he spit out something like back in 1944. I mean, I can actually find this clip and play it, but I'm sure that a lot of people saw it already online. He said that back in 1944, we were able to, how did he phrase it? We were able to stand up to Russia as an aggressor. But if we know 1944, back in 1944, they were fighting on the side of the Nazi Germany.
Hmm.
It was a really weird statement. To what extent do you think, Alexander, generational trauma plays out in moments like this? Like when people who represent countries sit in the Oval Office and they have just a half a minute or a minute to say something, and they say some outrageous BS like this.
I have such a long answer for that. And I was
Give
like,
it to us.
was not expecting this to come up. One of my favorite songs by a European artist named Jamala is called 1944, and it is about literally what we are talking about. It's so wild because it's not sung in Russian, it's sung in the older version of the language. What is that called? It's called like anyway, Krim something. Anyway, um I don't think that people realize that the things that they say shape and shift and change the social consciousness. So, like, for example, just to correlate it back to Trump or maybe even Gavin Newsom or things like that, like, you have to understand that we live in a bubble inside of California, especially Southern California. We don't live in the rest of the United States. And a lot of these people that live in small towns, like I'm from a small town originally, it used to be 50,000. I think it's way less now with the racetrack there and everything. Um, those people are more easily led by leaders and politicians, whereas people here in Southern California, we're all kind of like in the wild, wild west, and we're all kind of cray cray. We all have our own individual agenda going on, and we go against the status quo, but the rest of the United States does not. Okay. Especially in these small towns. And they know that when they say these things that they are going to easily affect those people because a lot of those people are stuck in the 9 to 5 world. They are enslaved, right? They have chosen to enslave themselves also, which is a whole other topic that could be today or another day.
Mm.
um and they know that they can manipulate them with a couple of words, a sentence. um are the is humanity waking up on a global scale and seeing that all of this is bullshit? Yes. But there are still people in these small rural towns that make up a huge percentage of the country that they know that they can influence, these blue collar people.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, this is a very interesting standpoint. Um, and it brings us further into, let's say, the US history and the way US was formed.
Mm,
Whether it was formed around the railway tracks back in the days, or whether it was formed around the um, trade spots such as Atlanta or Norfolk, or
mhm.
right, or some places in Louisiana. Definitely you can see the difference, also the difference in energy in some areas of the US. The energy of Native American tribes is still very present, although no one lives there, and maybe the only Native Americans who live there just drink themselves into oblivion every evening watching TV, but you can still feel the energy that was left there in this area. I remember when I used to live in Florida, there were quite a few places that were extremely powerful that still kept this energy. Also, Pennsylvania is quite different and, very energized. I mean, we've got a lot of beautiful places in the US, and we also have amazing areas. For example, if we look at the other continent in Russia. Now, why do you think this wave of not only anti-Russian sentiments, but also anti-American sentiments rose up right now? And why exactly now? And what does it tell us about what's coming up next?
Mm. Anti-American and anti-Russian. Oh, that's very easy. That's so easy. They are resetting the timeline back to World War II again,
Hmm.
and all of the World War. So, um,
Well, I think we should pause right here and we should show
okay.
our audience a video. Actually, it's a news channel,
Hmm.
and each and every German, almost every second German, watches evening news throughout the entire country.
Hmm.
Rest assured, it's either every German or every second German. They watch this. And after this dramatic statement that Alexander just made, I want to show to you, Alexander, and our audience something very interesting. And I'm going to translate what they're saying. This video um, was watched by the Germans just this evening. Just this evening. Let's go. Geht es unter anderem um die Personalausstattung.
Grigorius Dimitriadis schreckt die Diskussion um einen möglichen Ukraine-Einsatz nicht ab. Im Gegenteil, gerade hat er im Karrierecenter der Bundeswehr Stuttgart seine Bewerbung abgegeben.
So the Germans now, and I'm asking myself, how did we get there? The Germans now are considering bringing their troops to Ukraine to fight Russia. And this is a little video about an innocent young boy who wants to fight.
Ich als junger Mann sollte meinen Teil beitragen zum Schutze unseres Landes.
As a young man, I should bring some good or do some good to my country. And look at his name. His name is Grigorios Dimitriadis, which means that he is Greek. But in any case, he calls Germany his country, and he says that he wants to protect his country, Germany.
Und die Bundeswehr ist da so nah am Geschehen wie möglich. Eine Reservisteneinheit der Bundeswehr bei einer Feldübung im Frühjahr bei Karlsruhe. Mittendrin Oberst Joachim Fallert. Heute sagt er, viele Reservisten hätten Interesse an einer Ukraine.
This guy's name is Joachim. He is in reserve, in Bundeswehr reserve. And he says that a lot of people who are currently in reserve want to fight Russia.
In der Mission.
Als Beispiel, als die ukrainische Armee in Deutschland.
And so on and so forth. So it goes on for another good 20 minutes, and every German watches it. And what they hear, what their subconscious mind hears, is fight Russia.
Hmm.
So first they throw it as, is it a possibility? Are you guys up for it? And then they check the public opinion. And it's a big, loud yes. Why do you think this is happening right now in 2025?
I have a lot to say again. I feel
And I'm sorry for interrupting you. I want our audience to know Alexander and I, we were not sitting and writing down the script
no.
of our meeting. So Alexander said what he said, and I just happened to have this video clip that I had on my computer because I watched German news tonight.
I had absolutely no idea that she was gonna pull that out, actually. I feel and I sense that there are two polar opposite energies that are either colliding or creating polarity around each other of some kind. And it is the people that want to stay in illusion, right? And the people that want to stay in the past, and the people who actually want to create the world now and bring it into the future, right? And so those two energies are colliding with each other currently. And there is a huge, it kind of reminds me of the pandemic a little bit, where people are uh, kind of like doing this whole 50-50 thing where it's like 50% wants to evolve and change, and the other 50% wants to evolve and change, but it's very difficult for them to let go of the programming that they've held on to for the way that they have, again, enslaved themselves into a system that doesn't work anymore. And they're almost like scrambling to pull themselves out of this hole that they've dug for themselves that just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And I fear that 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 video, from watching that video, they really did that video on purpose to influence people to want to join, because it's like a young man, right? And this young man fights for his country, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like that's really going to get into the subconscious of people's it's very manipulative what we just watched.
And this is
Ex-
exactly what you said 10 minutes ago.
Mhm.
People pick leaders who want to manipulate the hell out of them.
Yeah, I did say that.
This is just what you said. And I find this rhetoric that we want to defend our country, we want to fight Russians, very interesting because Russia is nowhere near the German border. There are several countries that separate Germany from Russia. So,
Mm.
how did they come to the conclusion that Russia wants to invade Germany? I find it really fascinating. They almost like bypass this narrative or this possibility, and they
Mm.
directly about about it as if it was just a fact, a matter of a fact. You know,
It's very interesting.
generational trauma. This is, ladies and gentlemen, what generational trauma looks like.
So the wheel is you know, I don't know if anyone has ever seen the TV show called The Wheel of Time, but essentially it is a fantasy TV show, but it's about how all of these things are interconnected together in this sort of Ouroboros type of energy, right?
Mhm.
And when we are talking about this, I keep seeing the Ouroboros, which is very interesting. So it's kind of like the snake eating its tail. And I think earlier I mentioned that the timeline is looping, right?
Yes. Yes.
So if we are looping back, then that means that we could be possibly heading towards something very horrible. And so um it is really important for us and for our audience to keep our morale up and to be prepared for that, you know, and to remember that it might not look the same way that it did, right?
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
might it might be already happening, or it has been happening and we aren't just aware of it. Like, for example, someone and I a couple of weeks ago made a joke about The Handmaid's Tale
Mhm.
and said that the way that Christian nationalism is taking over the United States is kind of like The Handmaid's Tale as well. And I said, well, yeah, because a lot of these people that were coaches or healers
Yeah.
that moved from California to Texas now all of a sudden are, faith healers, or and because they did it on purpose in a strategic type of way so that people wouldn't see them as heretics, right? Or in a business sort of sense. I've seen and met a lot of people in LA that were liberal,
Mhm.
that then became conservative when they became real estate agents so that they could make more money. It is just interesting to see. I don't.
They
The other,
probably had a lot of Libra placements in their chart.
but it is that is true, and but
Mhm.
it's just very interesting to see how a lot of people think that they can avoid what is going to happen, right? And again, that is the aspect of the self and the ego that is not connected to community. It is a very self-involved practice to think that you can avoid what's going to happen to the collective whole.
Speaking of self-involved and self-absorbed, let's watch a short clip and just get the energy, like the little sample of energy. This is Trump's interview to Fox News. This is the phone call that he had with Fox News, where I perceive him as a very open kind of person. I know that everyone already by now has learned how to flatter him and how to make him relax, while bathing in the aura of admiration and flattery. So, and everyone is doing it right now. And we saw on the 18th of August that each and every EU leader who was there was trying to do that, basically, like his whatever, we're not going to say what. And sometimes when he is in the mood, he is very honest, and he is very open, and he just tells things as they are, whether he wants it or not. This is just the straightforward energy that he has.
Hmm.
Let's watch this real quick, and you'll tell me what you think. This is Fox News telephone call with President Donald Trump.
Expected. I didn't do it in front of him. I thought that would be disrespectful to President Putin. I wouldn't do that because they have not had the warmest relations. And actually, President Putin wouldn't talk to the people from Europe. That would.
So he is saying that Putin would not talk to the European leaders. And further on, he goes on about how there was no contact between the White House and Russia, and the Russian apparatus, as you wish, because he is a very Gemini-like person, and he's all about trade. He's very Mercurian in his nature. He likes communication, because through communication you can make deals, you can make money, you can do business,
Part of the
Mhm.
They had no communication. They had no communication with the White House for years as people died. Years with Biden and his people. No communication. Putin told me. Years. It was years that he spent.
Now, let's take a look at this. Alexander, let's take a look at this. I find this very fascinating. This is the actual picture that was taken. There were a lot of fake pictures, like where people are trying to gaggle and like laugh. So they would be perceived, or let's say, so there will be a lot of pictures of them being happy and smiling and laughing. However, this picture truly depicts what was going on back on Monday. This is Meloni, the president of Italy, where I currently reside for the next few weeks. This woman. You can tell our audience all about her without knowing her, because I know you don't know who this is. Therefore, I want to ask you who this is energetically. And this gentleman is actually, we talked about him before. His name is Friedrich Merz. He is the new Chancellor of Germany. And you can already see his negative body language, because we remember that holding fingers around the mouth area basically says, I want to be the one who speaks here, and I have to shut myself up in order not to say something that I really would like to say. And also his posture of, leaning backwards, leaning away. This is the posture of disagreement, skepticism. The way his legs are crossed also shows that he is extremely close person. He is a Scorpio 100% to the bone. He is a Scorpio guy. Let's start with these three. Alexander, your take on it.
To the left, is that what you're saying, or to the right?
Yeah, well, let's start with Meloni, Ursula von der Leyen, and Friedrich Merz.
There's a lot of competition happening. I sense a lot of competition, a lot of hidden agendas going on, a lot of ego going on, but also like there's people are being extremely diplomatic and not showing their cards immediately. That's what I got. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. 100%.
You're welcome.
Actually, on the 18th, and we can show later our audience the natal chart for the 18th of August, built exactly for Washington, D.C., exactly when the meeting took place. We took the same minute and the same hour to just kind of compare what was happening with the astrological situation that was up in the sky. I can clearly say that the Italian girl does not feel comfortable around these self-absorbed, narcissistic, competitive people. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah, she doesn't feel comfortable at all. Look at her. She's about to puke, looks like. And this right here is a lovely
Oh my
gentleman whose husband is beating him from time to time. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
This is Macron. I, for the first time, because I never felt like I want to hear him speak, but for the first time, I actually heard him speak. And I have sensed such an immense ego, the degree of narcissism that is, unknown to mankind. I immediately compared him with Napoleon in my mind. What do you think about this gentleman and also his posture and what he projects here?
There's a lot of pompous anger that's coming from that person, and a lot of but also I got a lot of like internalized shame. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, lots of shame going on there.
Narcissists, Alexander Narcissus, according to Heinz Kohut, who has written a lot of beautiful books on psychotherapy and especially on narcissism, he writes in his books that shame is there's a German word, Merkmal, is the trait that a narcissist, true perverted narcissist, carries always with himself. And when this shame hits them hard, they suffer immensely. They're like on the bottom, just asking to leave this world because it's unbearable, the narcissistic shame. It's interesting that you say that.
Well, you brought up something very interesting. So last night,
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a movie with some friends. It's called Alien Covenant, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, but what we all noticed immediately was the captain of the ship took the ship off course because he
Mm-hmm.
thought in his head that he could make the decision for 2,000 people that are in cryostasis, which is essentially sleeping, that
Mm.
instead of going to a safe home world that they've already researched, that they should go to this other planet.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to this planet and they inhale this spore that essentially is a parasite spore that makes an alien burst out of their stomach and eat them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one part in the movie where the guy is like crying and he's like, I can't believe, he's like, I should have just, I should have just taken us, I should have listened to you, da da da. And it was the shame. And we all were like, what a narcissist. Like, you brought these people here, you led these people to their death, so it's more like, what is the solution? But he just was thinking about himself. It's kind of trippy, you know.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, very, very true. I mean, I almost want to watch this Alien movie now. Now
You
that you
should. Mm.
sounds very interesting. So now, let's turn on our intuition and look at this gentleman who, instead of wearing a tracksuit like he did last time, is wearing something of a Stalin's blazer, a
Yes.
black shirt. What do you think about this? Not only posture, but the whole energetic projection.
Sad.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very sad.
Mm-hmm.
Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Sad secrets. Let me hold on. Let me see the answer. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Entities.
I was about to say, I was waiting for you to finish, and I wanted to say that, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see what a person under entity, a big entity, looks like, this is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it looks like. It's hard to describe. I almost don't want to tune into this energy, but
No.
also there is this fear of abandonment because he
Yep.
does project onto Trump the father figure that he
Yep.
hates, because
Yep.
actually no one talks about it, but he broke the protocol by bringing wrong people to the meeting. He
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to bring his defense minister to the meeting. He was supposed to bring other people to the meeting that he did not bring. And instead, he brought someone dressed in the military outfit. So once again, he managed to find the way to show Trump a big F sign, FU sign, and he managed it again. And,
Interesting.
it's like this rebellious kid who wants to get appreciation and admiration. Oh my gosh, there is a storm starting right now because I have it open.
Yeah, the
And
wind just kicked up over here too, actually.
lightning as well. All right, let's let's just turn it off in this case. We don't want to continue looking at this disturbing picture, but just to show how irritating it was, we can show our audience the actual natal chart for the meeting in Washington, D.C.
Mm.
Let me make sure that it's being shown. Let's take a look at this. So it is GMT adjusted. It happened exactly at 1:15 p.m. local time. And what we can see here is a very high Mars. Can you see well, Alexander, on the screen? The chart?
Oh, now I can see it. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I can see
oh,
I
uh,
can see the cursor.
yeah. So Mars was right on Midheaven, or very close to it, making an opposition to our beautiful Saturn Neptune conjunction Right now we have Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries. And also this whole construction in professional astrology, professional astrologers who watch this crystal talk, you guys know what you see. There's this geometrical figure that is very tense because we have Mars basically opposing Saturn, opposing Neptune, right? There is an opposition. But this opposition and this tension, it all has to go somewhere. And it actually goes to Uranus. Take a look at this, and Pluto. So it, let me just write like this. Uranus and Pluto, as you can see, is being discharged in Pluto and Uranus. So we're talking about a very explosive constellation of planets where the only way to express energy would be either in a Plutonian or in the Uranian way. What else do you see in this chart, Alexander? What do you sense? I know that your approach is very intuitive. What's your take on it?
Well, first off, it creates a diamond shape as well. So, and also, well, it creates two different shapes, which I'm going to explain. So it creates a diamond shape where on the bottom, it's creating a triangulation, and in the top, it goes into Mars. And intuitively, what that shows to me is that a lot of people are going to do a lot of self-preservation during this time rather than choosing to actually see the truth. They're going to avoid the truth, and a lot of people are going to get very angry. So, but on the other side of it, it looks like a kite. So during this time, you could really choose to see how you could choose what freedom means for you internally and externally, right? So kind of like a kite floating in the sky, you know, it's like, well, okay, that's great that we can control all of these things and do self-preservation and have an agenda, but what would happen if you let the kite float away?
You should write poetry.
I do. I do.
Alexander, we need to publish it as soon as possible. And definitely we should write a piece of poetry about this kite.
Well, you know that my mother found a bunch of old poems that I wrote when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I'm going to turn that into a book. But yes, we're going to do the kite poem as well. That would be really lovely.
Alexander, fourth house, look at what happened here. So this is a map for Washington, D.C., right, where the meeting took place. We have Saturn, malefic planet, and Neptune, two planets that are not good in a combination. They just don't go well with each other. They contradict each other. And they're in the sign where they both feel uncomfortable, in the sign of Aries. It all falls into the fourth house of this chart, and the fourth house means homeland. The buildings, the constructions where we actually live. I'm getting distracted here, distracted by thunder. So what is it you're sensing from this opposition being truly on the cusp of the 10th and the fourth house?
Oh,
What
very.
intensity do you feel here?
Whoa, hold on, let me just take a look. Is that Neptune, Saturn, and then is that Aries? What is that on the bottom? I can't see it.
Well, this is Imam Coeli. So basically, this is the line that separates the third and the fourth house. This is Pisces. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Saturn will go into Pisces starting from the 1st of September. of this year for, just briefly for a few weeks, but it will be there again.
What is the sign that's next to Pisces? Is that
This is the North Node. It's actually the direction where the entire civilization is moving towards, going to, and is going to the, Pisces energy currently. And
so what I am picking up very, very strongly from this is that it's very difficult for people to let go of their fantasy of what's been going on this whole time. And that could be the fantasy of America. Oh, yeah, that's right. There's also a lot of a butterfly just floated by. That was cool. There's also a lot of entities or demons that are feeding off of people wanting to stay in the illusion, which is why there are so many people that are currently checked out right now and are kind of like zombies at this point because they're not in their body. You see, our audience doesn't really know, or maybe you do know if you've been following Mary and I since the pandemic, but Mary and I, we were doing a bit of a channel situation happening one day on an Insta Live, and I essentially said, hey, this isn't to scare anyone. It isn't to warn anyone. And it was when Saturn was like retrograde for a very long time during one of the years of the pandemic. I said, if you don't start working on yourself now, in a couple of years, it's gonna backfire on you. And so now that this Neptune Saturn is it conjunction? Is that what you said?
yes.
The conjunction is happening. It's like people are being put inside of a pressure cooker, and unless you've done the work on yourself, you will go crazy. Like, or you will completely check out and become disassociated and become possessed.
There's no clip to play after this statement.
And how that affects the buildings and how. So here's a fun fact that our audience doesn't know that I'm pretty sure Mary knows too, is that most of our bigger cities are built through geomancy. Now, if you don't know what geomancy is the act of creating architecture through sacred geometry and magic and ley lines, right? And I do foresee and do predict that a lot of these major monuments will be torn down or will be destroyed by a calamity of some sort due to the energy that's happening, because we don't really realize that our collective consciousness actually affects the earth itself. And the earth has been shaking us off for some time over the last couple of years because it is very I don't want to say it doesn't like us anymore, but it's just like not really happy with the choices we've made. And a lot of those buildings that were created by sacred geometry or geomancy that were not in the best interests of the public will also be destroyed. So, yeah, there you go.
Well, I guess we should leave it at that. Whether it will be a civil war or the echo of the European war, which we will not cover tonight because it's midnight in Tuscany, and it's a whole new story. But Alexander, I do want to ask you, and thank you very much for this precise reading, intuitive yet precise reading of the chart.
Yes.
What is your, let's say, analysis, or what is your vision of the next several months? Let's take it until the February of 2026. Considering what was happening on the 18th in the Oval Office and all of these pouty faces and the brave and daring ultimatum that Friedrich Merz was trying to dictate to Trump while being a guest there in the Oval Office.
I do foresee that things will start to implode more on a government level and on a sociological level. And what that means is that whether people like it or not, all of the ways that we perceive structure in the world or the way that we use structure to control things around us are in a tower card sense, tumble down into the ground in a very Saturnalian type of way. Again, Saturn. And then once the dust settles, we will move into a sort of underground artistic renaissance around December to February. A lot of really great music is going to come out. A lot of artists that usually stay very neutral will start to express their stance and how they feel about the world. The music industry will completely will recycle itself in a different way. You will see a lot of people that are conservative in a way where they project their values of homophobia and racism in a way through religion, that their ideology will completely crumble as well. And I do also foresee that we will be visited by more of our alien ancestors during that time. So, like more of a bigger thing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea how dramatic it all sounds with the thunder and the lightning shining through the window up here.
I also would suggest to everyone, if they are open to it, whether they do a session with me or they do a session with Mary, to be able to call upon the energy of Saturn to teach them to have more discipline and protection for themselves in their life. But not only that, on a side note, because, you know, I know Mary loves to hear these little nuggets from me. Any type of sigil magic that involves the planet Saturn protects against calamity. So if you want to protect your home and you want to protect your body from essentially dying from a calamity, you call upon Saturn. So just wanted to, the umbrella started twirling around when I started saying that. So just so you know. Anyway, back to you, Mary.
I'm not sure whether you can hear it, but there is a really big storm right now coming through. So probably in a small village where I currently am in, probably the electricity or maybe internet will get turned off right now just by itself spontaneously. And this is also very symbolic. It's a symbol of how quickly we can lose opportunity to evolve and develop. Do not waste your time. Do not waste your opportunities. Use every minute and every second. Be mindful. All right. I have to go because I have to close this window. Thank you very much, Alexander, and we will see you soon again.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you for your time.